What's going on, everybody? It's your boy E-Man the Chosen here, and I'm back today with another video. So today we're going to switch it up. This is going to be a very different video from what I normally upload, but whether you're a new player just getting into ESO or a veteran player who's been here forever, I thought it would be a cool idea just to take a trip down memory lane, talk about the top 10 most notorious builds in ESO history. So what I mean by notorious is that this build, this set or skill had a very big impact on the game at the time. And it either caused mayhem, caused drama, or people had to complain to ZOS to get whatever it was nerfed. Or sometimes it would be just a really strong build that everybody was running at the time, and it just made PvP not the most enjoyable experience for everyone. So in this video, I'll also be going over some old clips, and I'll do my best to leave a link to all the clips in the description because not all of the clips are mine. Also because I never played any of those builds, but I was definitely around for a lot of these metas. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this type of content. If you do, make sure you hit that like button. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. So this first clip is from the original Maxork. So Maxork back in the day was insanely broken. So Sork shields used to last 30 seconds, not the 6 seconds that they last today. So they used to last 30 seconds. Not only that, but they did not have a cap. So, you know, you could literally, as high as you could stack your max mag, that's be as big as your shield would be. So it was very common for Maxorks to run around with 17k health, but be extremely tanky because of the size of their shields. So now on today's live server, they actually have, you know, that's why they have a cap on their shields today, you know, based on their health or the max mag, because people used to not have a cap. Not only that, they used to have some of the best bursts in the game because of a passive called Implosion. So if someone got under a certain amount of health, they would just blow up, or they would have a chance to blow up. And it said 6%, but honestly, that passive used to proc way more than 6% of the time. And they could also like just put like a 30k burst on you. See here, he's using inevitable detonation. This skill used to do a lot of damage for a single target damage, and you can put inevitable detonation curse into a frag. Like, it was pretty much like a 30k undodgeable burst if someone like hit you. And you can like animation cancel Dawnbreakers. Sorks not only did they have crazy burst, but they also had access to a third bar with overload, which just made Sork so strong back in the day. It's a really fun time for Sork, but man, it was crazy. And you know, more broken stuff about that was Crystal Frags used to hit a lot harder, and not only did it hit harder, but it also used to be a stun. They used to have the Daedric Mines back when they really hit hard, and a lot of the Sorks used to sit in their Daedric Mines. And if you were melee, you were in trouble because you could not get close to those mines, because each of those mines were hitting you for like 10k a piece. So yes, original Maxork was insane. And you know, it's crazy that they had nerfed Maxork really bad, and it was bad for a very long time until recently when Sorks got a buff to their shields and the healing. You know, that's why it's strong now. But back in the day, Sork was very strong. It was like an absolute powerhouse of a class. If you think Maxork is overpowered today, then you definitely didn't want to be around during this time, because it was much worse. Coming in at number 9, we had the Heavy Attack DK. So this was a build that a DK could pretty much one-shot anybody with a heavy attack. They would combine a set that gives you increased heavy attack damage. There was heavy attack CP, and then DKs have a skill that gives them Empower, which increases their heavy attack damage by like 70%, which eventually these heavy attack builds got way out of hand in PvP, and eventually ZOS changed to where Empower now only works in PvE just to prevent from all the instances of how strong the heavy attack builds were in PvP at the time. But you know, it was crazy. Like, for a long time, like, you used to be running around keeps. Sometimes you could be in the middle of a fight, then out of nowhere, you get hit by like a 35k heavy attack. It was insane. So they definitely had to nerf this. It was very strong, but I'm sure it was fun for the person who was doing it, but just not very fun for the person on the receiving end. So had to nerf it. Coming in at number 8, we have the Fury 7th Legion Health Recovery meta. So for those of you all who were around during this time, it was crazy. Like, the healing was insane. So there didn't used to be like a cap on health recovery. So health recovery could get up to like 4-5k, and you got to a point where you didn't even need a burst heal because the heals over time were so strong. And with Fury and 7th Legion, you have big damage, so your healing is even stronger. And yeah, there was just no killing the health recovery builds. They eventually did like gut health recovery. That's why like health recovery is like a dead stat. Like, if you try to build in the health recovery, it's not going to reflect very well in PvP anymore because ZOS has long nerfed the health recovery. But man, when the health recovery was a thing, oh my god, everybody was running around with Troll King. You also had lingering health pots and lingering speed pots that gave you major expedition for like 45 seconds and lingering health, which was insanity. And you can also stack it with like a set like Black Rose, which you would get crazy sustain from heavy armor from using Black Rose. And so if you put the build together, you would literally be unkillable, especially if you used to run the lingering health pods. They gave you the 45-second uptime on major expedition. So you had major expedition up off cooldown without a skill, and you had crazy healing, and it would take a whole army to take you down. That's how much healing you had. Like, it would take a whole army. Very fun build, but they eventually did have to nerf this playstyle, but it was fun while it lasted. So coming in at number 7, we have the Viper Veladrift Eternal Hunt Nightblade. Fighting against these builds was absolutely obnoxious because the player had the ability to pretty much line up a 30k burst on you just by pressing like one ability. They didn't really have to press too many skills because, you know, if you roll dodge, if you land a lot of tech, you have a chance for Viper to go off, you have a chance for Veladrift to go off, and if you try to push them, they'll roll dodge and you're running to their Eternal Hunt. So a lot of times, you know, it just ended in someone just dying randomly to a proc, like, and a lot of the procs could crit, and they would each proc would easily hit you for like 8 to 10k sometimes, and you would just randomly take a 30k burst and die, like the crazy stuff. And you know, with the procs just being able to crit, it was really hard to deal with, and it was crazy because everybody used to run this during this time. So pretty much everybody was fighting against was on some kind of proc build, and it was completely obnoxious to deal with. They eventually did nerf all those sets into the ground, but while it was live, it was crazy to deal with. So coming in at number 6, we have the Blazing Shield Templar, which is pretty much like the Bubble Plar. And so on this build, the player will build like 60k plus health, right? All they would need to do is spam their Blazing Shield, and if the players kept attacking them, they would do damage based off the player's health, right? So that's why a player had to build so much health. So the whole gimmick of this build is that you will reflect damage based on the amount of damage you were taking. So if you had a Zerg on you, you know, all you had to do was just keep pressing the shield, and eventually they would all die. So it didn't do much DPS if players weren't attacking you. So like if you're trying to be offensive on a player, but the whole gimmick of the build was to get people to attack you, and it would reflect damage based off of your max health. And it was just a bait build that, you know, the Zerg would go and attack that one person and then wonder why they all died. And this build got so out of hand that a lot of people were running it, and it took a lot of the fun out of PvP during the time. And they finally did nerf the Blazing Shield Templar, and that's why it's not as good as it used to be, or the DPS isn't the same. But man, when this thing was live, like, you saw this everywhere, and it would be crazy to see a 60k health Templar just wiping a Zerg. It was very common. So coming in at number 5, we have the Dark Convergence Harmony meta. So this was a very common thing on Necros or Nightblades or sometimes even Templars. Harmony was a very, very strong trait in PvP. It used to buff the damage of your ults, but ZOS had to rework the Harmony trait to now it gives you resources based off your synergies you use. So pretty much gutted the whole Harmony playstyle. And then Dark Convergence was also broken when it first came out. I mean, it's still strong now. People still use it to this day, but it's not nearly as strong as when it first came out. Like, the pool was very stronger, and it also did pretty good damage as well. And it was a lot harder to counter. But, typical ZOS fashion, people complain about it, so they definitely got the Dark Convergence nerfed. But, man, when this thing was live, like, the Harmony Bombers were insane. Like, the Necros was crazy. Like, you could bomb on any class pretty much. Like, it was especially strong if you had like a Templar in your group and you had Harmony and they popped the synergy from using Gravity Crush. You would pop people with 40k Gravity Crushes. It would be insane. But they definitely have to nerf it. It was very strong. So coming in at number 4, we have the Calorian's Ganker. It did not matter how tanky you were. It didn't matter how much health you had. It didn't matter how much mitigation you had. If you weren't blocking, you were susceptible to one of these ganks. Like, it was insane the damage that Calorian gankers had. Like, it was actually crazy. There's definitely still some strong gank builds, especially with the introduction of scribing, but I still don't think any of them compare to how strong the Calorian's gankers was back in the day. Because it's just like, no matter what you had, like, you were done for. Like, no matter how much health, like, if you weren't blocking, you were dead, like, guaranteed. People complained about Calorian's ganking for a very long time, and it eventually got that set nerfed into the ground. But while it was live, it was insane to deal with. So coming in at number 3, we had the Oaken Soul DK, aka the 1-bar DK. And oh my god, was this very strong. So when the Oaken Soul ring first came out, it used to give you all major buffs. So it gives you major Berserk, major Courage, major Heroism, major Mending, major Vitality. And oh my god, was that the wrong thing to do, for especially on DK that gets a lot out of having all those major buffs. So a lot of the 1-bar DKs were using Corrosive, and back then you could actually build ult while you're in Corrosive, and you have massive damage mitigation. Like, the damage you take is capped at 3% of your max health, and not only that, you have 100% pin while you're in Corrosive. Having this ring made you pretty much like an unkillable, like, guy who had 100% pin at pretty much all times. Like, it was insane. Like, the DKs who were running around, like, pretty much all the DKs were running around with this. So it made PvP like not a fun experience, for you if you're not on DK. If you're fighting like a lot of these builds, it was crazy to deal with. They eventually did nerf the Oaken Soul to, it doesn't have all those major buffs. It has all the minor buffs, and it's still a solid set on some classes, but it's definitely not very good, or not as good as it used to be, especially not having those major buffs. But man, when this thing first dropped, oh my god, it was insane to deal with. So coming in at number 2, we have the Bash Necro. And oh my god, so back then when Necro first came out, the Bash morph of the Goliath actually did a lot of damage, but it did some unintended extra damage, especially when someone would actually build into it, and like, it was super hard to, like, you couldn't roll dodge it, you couldn't get away. Like, you literally, like, you could kill entire Zergs or entire groups just with the Bash ultimate. Like, it was doing crazy amounts of damage. They eventually did nerf the Bash Necro, but man, when it was a thing, like, there was not a lot of counterplay for it. It was plaguing PvP. Like, there was so many Necros running around in their Goliaths bashing everybody to death. Like, it was wild. Luckily, a lot of you guys probably weren't there for this, but man, this meta was insane. I still see people who try to play Bash Crow to this day and try to make it work. And sometimes you can, but you're not killing or wiping whole groups like you used to be able to with Bash Crow. You may be able to kill about one person, but that's about it. So coming in at number 1, we have Tarnish Nightmare, aka the Glass Shattering set. So pretty much when this set first dropped, there was an exploit with proximity detonation to where like there was no like cap on how much damage the Tarnish Nightmare could do. So like a lot of bombers were taking advantage of this and like going and bombing, and sometimes you can be even hit by like a 60k Tarnish Nightmare. Sometimes it was crazy. They eventually did nerf the Tarnish Nightmare, but it's still very strong. Like they've nerfed it twice already now. The first nerf was just like that exploit nerf, and then the second nerf was like putting a little thing on the bottom of Tarnish Nightmare, so now you can actually see when it's about to attack you. But I mean, it's still a very strong set, and as of today, if you play PvP at all within the last 30 days, you've probably been hit by this set a few times, and it's a very easy proc condition. That's why it's very popular, very widely used. Procs a very strong status effect with Sundered, all for little effort. So very strong set. It's already been on the forums many times. People complaining about it, still needs a nerf. I personally think that it's like in a good spot right now. I don't think it needs any more of a nerf. I think it's in a good spot, but it's just very commonly used because of its ease of use. But alright guys, that's going to do it for the video. Also guys, before you get to the comments, I know there's probably going to be a lot more that I missed when it comes to some of the most notorious builds, but if I missed any, definitely leave a comment, and we'll look into making a part 2 if you guys enjoy this type of content. But anyways guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.